There are moments, rare moments, when time itself seems to pause, not for the world, but for you. This is one of those moments. Something in your spirit told you not to scroll past this. Something inside you hesitated, even for a second longer than usual. And now you're here, listening, reading, feeling this pull that you can't fully explain. That is not coincidence. That is not random curiosity. That is divine interruption. Archangel Michael is stepping forward right now, not tomorrow, not later, now, because June 14th carries a weight that your spirit already recognizes, even if your mind is still catching up. There is something about this day, something forming, something approaching, something waiting on your decision. And heaven has chosen this exact moment to intercept you before you move forward. You may not realize it yet, but you've been standing at a crossroads longer than you think. And didn't start today. It started in the quiet moments, when you questioned yourself, when you second-guessed an opportunity, when you felt that subtle tension in your chest before making a choice. That tension, that hesitation, that quiet whisper saying, "Wait, what if something goes wrong?" That was fear, and it has been closer to you than you realize. But here's what makes this moment different. Today, June 14th, is not just another date on a calendar. It is a spiritual checkpoint, a line drawn in the unseen realm where hesitation is being confronted, where delay is being exposed, and where your next move is being watched, not by people but by heaven itself. Archangel Michael does not interrupt without reason. He does not step into your awareness without purpose. When he speaks, it is because something is about to shift. And right now, he is saying, do not let fear control your next decision. Why now? Because there is a decision in front of you, maybe obvious, maybe hidden, that carries more weight than you understand. It may look small at the surface, a conversation, a step forward, a risk, a change, a yes or a no. But in the spirit, it is not small, it is a gateway, and fear hath been positioning itself to influence it. Think about it. How many times have you felt ready to move forward, only to suddenly feel doubt creep in? How many times have you pulled back, not because it was wrong, but because it felt uncertain? How many opportunities, conversations, or actions have you delayed, not because you didn't want them, but because something inside you whispered, "What if you fail?" That whisper has a voice, and it is not the voice of your destiny. This is why this message found you. Because if you move forward under the influence of fear, you don't just delay a decision. You alter a path. You shift a timing. You redirect outcomes. And heaven is stepping in before that happens. Archangel Michael is not here to scare you. He is here to wake you, to pull you out of autopilot, to make you aware that what you're about to decide next matters more than you think. You are not here by accident. You were led here. And as you sit with this message, feeling something stirring inside you, understand this. The very fact that you are hearing this now means you are already being positioned for something greater. But positioning requires awareness, and awareness requires interruption. This is your interruption. This is your moment to pause, not in fear, but in clarity. Not in hesitation, but in understanding. Because something is coming, a moment, a choice, an opportunity, and when it arrives, you will either meet it with fear or with faith. And Archangel Michael is making one thing clear before that moment reaches you. Fear must not lead you anymore. The question is, will you recognize the moment when it comes? Type "I choose faith" in the comments if you receive this message. Lesson code 1414 is now activated. There is a difference between a gentle nudge and a divine command. What you are hearing right now is not a suggestion wrapped in soft comfort. It is not a casual message meant to inspire you for a moment and then fade into the background of your day. No, this is authority speaking. This is Archangel Michael stepping forward with clarity, precision, and purpose, cutting through the noise that has surrounded your thoughts for far too long. He is not whispering. He is not asking. He is declaring. Do not let fear control your next decision. Feel the weight of that. Not try your best. Not be mindful. Not consider choosing faith. This is direct. This is intentional. This is urgent. Because what stands in front of you is not just another choice. It is a defining moment, and heaven refuses to let fear distort it any longer. You have been listening to many voices lately, whether you realized it or not. The voice of logic that tries to calculate every outcome. The voice of past experiences reminding you of what went wrong before. The voice of other people, their opinions, their doubts, their projections placed onto your path. And then there is the quietest voice of all, the one that questions your worth, your readiness, your timing. The one that says, maybe now is not the right time. The one that convinces you to wait just a little longer. That voice has been shaping more of your decisions than you think. And this is exactly why Archangel Michael is intervening now. Because when too many voices speak at once, truth becomes blurred, discernment becomes clouded, and fear finds the perfect space to take control, not loudly, not aggressively, but subtly, quietly, convincingly. Michael's presence disrupts that completely. When he speaks, confusion must step aside. When he declares truth, every false narrative begins to lose its grip. And right now, he is cutting through every layer of hesitation that has been building inside you. He is not concerned with your comfort in this moment. He is focused on your alignment. Because comfort can keep you stuck, but alignment moves you forward. Understand this clearly. Fear has been trying to disguise itself as wisdom in your life. It has been presenting hesitation as caution, delay as preparation, avoidance as protection. It has made you believe that stepping back is safer than stepping forward, that waiting is wiser than acting, that shrinking is better than risking. But Michael is exposing that illusion. He is showing you that what you thought was protection has actually been limitation. What you thought was safety has actually been stagnation. And what you thought was careful thinking has often been fear wearing the mask of logic. This is why his message is not gentle, it is direct. Because there is no more time for misinterpretation. He sees what is ahead of you. He sees the opportunity forming, the door beginning to open, the moment approaching that will require your response. And he also sees the pattern, the way fear has caused you to hesitate before, the way it has convinced you to second-guess yourself, the way it has delayed actions that could have moved you forward sooner. And he is saying, not this time, not this decision, not this moment. You may feel resistance rising even now as you hear this. A part of you may still want to retreat, to question, to analyze, to hold back just a little longer. That is the exact space where this command is meant to reach you. Because transformation does not happen when everything feels easy. It happens when truth confronts the very thing that has been holding you back. Michael is not removing your ability to choose. He is restoring your ability to choose clearly, without distortion, without fear sitting quietly in the background influencing every thought. He is calling you into a higher level of awareness where you begin to recognize fear for what it is, not a guide, not a protector, but a limitation that must no longer lead you. And here is what makes this even more powerful. You are not being asked to face this alone. When Archangel Michael speaks, he does not speak from a distance. He stands with you. His presence is not symbolic. It is active. His protection is not passive. It is engaged. As you move forward, as you approach this decision, as you feel that familiar tension begin to rise, understand that you are not standing in uncertainty by yourself. You are standing in a moment where heaven is fully aware, fully present, and fully invested in your outcome. This is why the command carries such authority, because it is backed by divine support. You are not being told to ignore fear, you are being told not to let it lead. There is a difference. Fear may still try to speak. It may still try to whisper. It may still try to remind you of risks and uncertainties. But it no longer gets the final say. That authority has been taken away. And now, a new question rises within you, one that will echo into the next moment, the next section, the next decision you are about to face. If fear is no longer allowed to lead you, then what will? Type "I am guided by truth" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 2222 is now activated. There is something you need to see clearly now, something that has been operating beneath your awareness for longer than you realize. Fear has not been loud in your life. It has not always shown up as panic, anxiety, or overwhelming dread. If it had, you would have recognized it immediately. You would have resisted it. You would have fought against it. But that is not how it chose to work with you, and chose subtly. It learned your patterns, and studied your reactions. It adapted itself to your personality so well that you began to mistake it for your own voice. And that is how it gained influence, not by force, but by familiarity. Think about the moments when you felt something pulling you forward, something inside you urging you to take a step, to say yes, to move, to act. That feeling was real. That was alignment. That was purpose calling you into motion. But almost instantly something else followed. A second thought. A hesitation. A quiet question that sounded reasonable enough to trust. What if this doesn't work out? What if you're not ready yet? What if you make the wrong move? Those questions didn't feel like fear. They felt like caution. They felt responsible. They felt wise. And that is exactly how fear disguised itself in your life. It did not try to stop you outright. It simply slowed you down, redirected you, delayed you just enough to keep you from fully stepping into what was meant for you. You didn't notice it at first, because from the outside, everything still looked normal. You were still thinking, still planning, still considering your options. But internally, something had shifted. Decisions that should have been simple became heavy. Opportunities that should have felt exciting started to feel overwhelming. Even small steps began to carry unnecessary weight. That was not coincidence. That was influence. Fear does not need to control every part of your life to be effective. You only need to control the moments that matter most. The turning points. The decisions that carry potential. The steps that lead you forward into something greater. That is where it focuses its energy. That is where it becomes most persuasive. And now, as you look back, you may begin to see it more clearly. The times you held back when you were ready. The times you stayed silent when you had something important to say. The times you chose comfort over growth, familiarity over expansion, safety over possibility. It was not because you lacked strength. It was not because you lacked ability. It was because fear had positioned itself just close enough to guide your final decision. And here is the truth Archangel Michael is revealing to you now. It was never meant to have that role in your life. You were not created to be led by hesitation. You were not designed to move through life second-guessing your every step. You were not called to shrink in moments that required you to rise. But fear, when left unrecognized, can reshape your behavior until it feels normal, until hesitation becomes your default, until doubt becomes your pattern. This is why this message feels so direct, because you are being shown something that has been hidden in plain sight. Fear has not just been present, it has been participating. It has influenced how you see yourself. It has influenced how you interpret situations. It has influenced how you respond to opportunities. And most importantly, it has influenced the timing of your actions. It has convinced you that waiting is always better, that delaying is always safer, that stepping back is always wiser. But what it never told you is what those delays were costing you. Every time you hesitated when you were meant to act, something shifted. Not because the opportunity disappeared immediately, but because your alignment changed. Your momentum paused. Your confidence adjusted. And over time, those small moments of hesitation began to create a pattern, a rhythm of holding back just enough to stay where you are instead of moving where you are meant to be. And now, Archangel Michael is bringing that pattern into the light. Not to condemn you, not to make you feel regret, but to awaken you. Because once you see it, it loses its power. Once you recognize it, it can no longer operate unnoticed. Once you understand how it hath been working, you gain the ability to respond differently. This is where your awareness shifts. This is where your perception sharpens. This is where you begin to separate your true voice from the voice that has been guiding you in subtle ways. You begin to ask a new question, one that carries clarity instead of confusion. Is this truly wisdom, or is this fear trying to lead again? And that question alone begins to change everything. Because the next time you feel that hesitation, the next time that familiar whisper tries to slow you down, you will not accept it blindly. You will pause. You will recognize it. You will see it for what it is. And in that moment, you will have a choice you did not fully exercise before: to follow it or to rise above it. Type ISE clearly now in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 3333 is now activated. As this truth settles into your spirit, understand this: every time you help carry this message forward, you become part of someone else's awakening. There are souls right now, just like you, standing at their own crossroads, silently battling fear, waiting for a divine interruption to reach them. And through your support, that interruption becomes possible. Scripture declares, "Give, and it will be given to you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over." And this is not just a verse, it is a living promise over your obedience. When you sow into this mission through the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on your screen, you are not giving to a channel. You are releasing light into someone else's darkness. I feel led to say this clearly: I am stepping forward to help God reach the one who is still lost. Let your action become your agreement with heaven. Move now. To now. Be part of the harvest that is changing lives. What you are facing right now is not just a decision. It is a battlefield. And the reason it feels heavier than usual, the reason it seems to carry more pressure than it should, is because there is more happening beneath the surface than your natural eyes can see. This is not just about choosing between options. This is about choosing between influences. There are two forces present in this moment, and both are pulling at your attention. Your emotions, your thoughts. One is rooted in fear, built on uncertainty, shaped by past experiences and imagined outcomes. The other is rooted in faith, anchored in truth, aligned with purpose, and supported by heaven itself. And right now, both are waiting for your response. This is why the decision feels so intense, because it is not neutral. Every meaningful decision carries spiritual weight. Every step forward or backward creates movement not just in your external life, but in your internal alignment. And when a decision has the power to shift your direction, to open doors, to elevate your position, to bring you closer to your calling, that is when resistance appears. That is when fear becomes louder. That is when doubt becomes more convincing. That is when hesitation feels almost justified. But what you are experiencing is not random resistance. It is strategic. Fear does not rise in moments that do not matter. It does not intensify around decisions that have no impact. It targets moments of potential. It positions itself at the edge of your growth. It waits until you are about to move forward, and then it begins to speak with urgency, trying to pull you back into what is familiar, what is predictable, what feels safe. But safe is not always aligned. And this is what Archangel Michael is revealing to you now. There is a spiritual battle behind your hesitation. Not a battle you can see, not one that plays out in obvious ways, but one that operates through influence, through thoughts, through emotions, through perception. It is a battle over your direction. Because the moment you choose to move forward in faith, something shifts. Your path changes. Your alignment strengthens. Your momentum begins. And that movement cannot be easily reversed. So the resistance comes before the step, not after. The doubt appears before the action, not after. The confusion rises before clarity can settle. This is not coincidence. This is timing. You have reached a point where your next decision matters more than the previous ones. And because of that, the tension has increased. The internal conflict has become more noticeable. The questions have become more persistent. You may have even felt this recently, a sense that something is trying to pull you in two directions at once. One part of you feels ready, even if you cannot fully explain why. There is a quiet confidence, a knowing, a sense that moving forward is the right thing to do. And then there is another part of you that immediately counters it, that introduces doubt, that highlights risk, that magnifies uncertainty. That is the battle. And it is happening within you because this is where the outcome is decided. Archangel Michael stands in this moment not to fight for you, but to reveal what is already happening. To make you aware that what feels like confusion is actually conflict. Not external conflict, but internal alignment being challenged by opposing forces. And once you see it this way, everything begins to shift. Because now, hesitation is no longer just hesitation. It is influence. Doubt is no longer just doubt. It is pressure. Fear is no longer just a feeling. It is a voice attempting to lead. And when you recognize that, you begin to take your power back. You begin to understand that your decision is not just about outcomes, it is about alignment. It is about which voice you allow to guide you. It is about which influence you choose to follow. This is why Michael's message is so direct. Because if you treat this like a normal decision, you will approach it the same way you always have. You will analyze, you will calculate, you will weigh risks and possibilities. And while those things have their place, they are not enough in this moment. Because this moment requires discernment. It requires you to look beyond what is visible and begin to sense what is operating underneath. To recognize that the intensity you feel is not because you are unprepared, but because something important is at stake. You are not being overwhelmed. You are being confronted with a choice that carries significance. And here is the truth that changes everything. The presence of fear does not mean you are on the wrong path. In many cases, it means you are standing at the edge of the right one. Fear reacts to movement. It reacts to growth. It reacts to change. It reacts when you are about to step into something that expands you beyond your current position. So instead of asking, "Why do I feel afraid?" begin to ask, "What is this fear trying to keep me from?" That question shifts your perspective completely. Because now, fear is no longer the authority. It is the signal. A signal that you are close to something that matters. A signal that your next step carries weight. A signal that your movement forward will create change. And in that realization, the battle becomes clear. Not something to avoid, not something to fear, but something to move through with awareness. You are not stuck. You are not confused. You are standing in the middle of a moment where your awareness is being sharpened, your discernment is being activated, and your next step is being defined. And now, as this becomes clearer, another question begins to rise within you, one that will shape what comes next. If this is a battle between fear and faith, which one will you allow to decide for you? Type "I choose alignment" in the comments if you receive this message. Lesson code 4444 is now activated. There are days that pass without consequence, and then there are days that carry weight far beyond what the surface reveals. June 14th is not ordinary. It is not just another moment in time that fades into memory. It is a line, a spiritual line, drawn across your path, marking the exact place where your direction begins to shift. You may not see it with your physical eyes. You may not hear anything unusual in the natural world. But within your spirit, something is already responding. Something is already recognizing that this moment is different. And that recognition is not accidental. It is divine awareness being activated within you. Because June 14th is not just about a decision. It is about a turning point. A turning point does not always announce itself loudly. It does not always come with dramatic signs or undeniable clarity. Sometimes it arrives quietly, disguised as a simple choice, a small step, a moment that feels almost insignificant. But what makes it powerful is not how it looks. It is what it leads to. And right now, you are standing in one of those moments. Archangel Michael is revealing this clearly. What you choose here will not remain isolated. It will not stay contained within this single moment. It will ripple outward. It will influence what comes next, and what follows after that, and what begins to unfold in ways you cannot yet fully see. This is how turning points work. They are not about the size of the decision. They are about the direction it sets. You may be wondering why this feels so intense. Why something that seems simple is carrying so much weight. Why your thoughts keep returning to it. Why your emotions feel more engaged than usual. Why there is a sense that this moment matters more than others. That is because it does. This is not pressure meant to overwhelm you. This is awareness meant to prepare you. Because when you understand the significance of a moment, you approach it differently. You become more intentional, more present, more aligned with what truly matters instead of what merely feels comfortable. And this is where the shift begins. In the past, you may have approached decisions based on what felt easiest, what seemed safest, what allowed you to avoid discomfort or uncertainty. You may have leaned toward what required less risk, less exposure, less vulnerability. And in many moments, that felt like the right choice. But this moment is asking something different from you. It is asking you to look beyond comfort, to look beyond familiarity, to look beyond the immediate feeling and begin to consider the deeper impact of your choice. Because staying where you are may feel safe, but it may also keep you from where you are meant to go. And stepping forward may feel uncertain, but it may also be the very movement that aligns you with what has been waiting for you. This is the tension of a turning point. It does not present itself as obvious. It presents itself as a choice between what you know and what you sense, between what is familiar and what is possible, between what fear prefers and what faith requires. And right now, June 14th holds that exact space for you. Archangel Michael is not asking you to rush. He is not asking you to act without thought or awareness. He is asking you to recognize the moment for what it is, to understand that this is not something to ignore, not something to delay, not something to approach casually. Because when a turning point is missed, it does not always return in the same way. Opportunities may come again, but timing shifts. Alignment adjusts. These that was once available may require more effort later, and the clarity that is present now may not feel as strong if it is ignored. This is why awareness is so important. You are not being pressured. You are being positioned. Positioned to see clearly. Positioned to respond differently. Positioned to choose not from fear, but from a place of understanding that this moment carries meaning. And as you stand here, feeling this awareness settle into you, something begins to change. You begin to realize that this is not about making a perfect decision. It is about making an aligned one. One that reflects who you are becoming, not who you have been. One that moves you forward, even if the step feels unfamiliar. Because turning points are not about certainty. They are about direction. And direction is shaped by what leads you, fear or faith. So now, as this moment becomes clearer, as June 14th reveals itself not just as a date but as a defining point, you are faced with something simple, yet powerful. Will you approach this decision the same way you always have, or will you respond with the awareness you now carry? Because this is the moment where the pattern can either repeat or break. This is the moment where hesitation can either return or release. This is the moment where your next step begins to shape what comes after. And the question that remains, the one that will follow you into the next section, into the next realization, into the next level of understanding is this: if this is truly your turning point, what will you do differently this time? Type "I step into my turning point" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 5555 is now activated. There is a reason fear hath been able to stay in your life for as long as it has, and it is not because it is stronger than you. It is not because you are weak. It is not because you lack courage. It is because fear has mastered one thing better than anything else. It has learned how to feel safe. Not real safety, but the illusion of it. And that illusion is powerful. Because when something feels safe, you stop questioning it. You stop challenging it. You stop resisting it. You begin to trust it, even when it is quietly limiting you. And this is exactly how fear has been operating in your decisions. It has not been presenting itself as danger. It has been presenting itself as protection. Think about the moments when you chose not to move forward. The times you told yourself, it's better to wait. The times you stepped back from something that required risk, vulnerability, or uncertainty. In those moments, it didn't feel like you were holding yourself back. It felt like you were being responsible, careful, smart. That is the illusion. Fear does not say, stay here and miss your opportunity. It says, stay here and avoid the risk. Fear does not say, don't grow. It says, not yet, wait until everything feels certain. Fear does not say, you are limiting yourself. It says, you are protecting yourself. And over time, that language becomes familiar. It becomes comfortable. It becomes something you rely on without even realizing it. But here is what Archangel Michael is revealing to you now. What feels safe is not always what is aligned. There is a difference between protection and limitation, and fear has been blurring that line in your life, because real protection does not hold you back from your purpose. Real protection does not keep you in a place where nothing changes. Real protection does not silence your growth or delay your movement. It supports you as you move forward. It does not keep you standing still. But fear keeps you still. It creates a space where nothing challenges you, nothing stretches you, nothing requires you to step beyond what you already know. And in that space, you feel comfortable. You feel in control. You feel like you are avoiding mistakes. But what you are actually doing is avoiding movement. And movement is where everything begins to change. This is why fear feels so convincing. Because it gives you a sense of control without requiring you to grow. It allows you to stay in familiar territory while telling you that you are making the right choice. But what it never shows you is the cost. The cost of staying where you are. The cost of delaying what is meant to happen. The cost of choosing comfort over calling. Because every time you choose the illusion of safety, something else is postponed. A door that could have opened remains closed. A step that could have been taken is delayed. A version of you that is waiting to emerge remains hidden just a little longer. And the longer that pattern continues, the more normal it feels. This is why breaking it requires awareness. You have to begin seeing comfort differently. You have to begin questioning what feels safe. Not to reject it entirely, but to understand it. To ask yourself whether what you are choosing is truly protecting you or quietly holding you back. Because there is something you need to understand at a deeper level now. Growth will never feel completely safe. Stepping into something new will always carry uncertainty. Moving forward will always require a level of trust that goes beyond what you can fully predict or control. And that is not a flaw in the process, it is part of it. But fear will use that uncertainty against you. It will point to everything you cannot guarantee and use it as a reason to stop. It will highlight every unknown and present it as a threat instead of a possibility. And if you are not aware of it, you will listen. This is why Archangel Michael is speaking so directly in this moment. Because the decision in front of you requires you to see beyond the illusion. To recognize that what feels safe may not actually be serving you. To understand that avoiding risk is not the same as moving forward in alignment. You are being asked to shift your perspective. To stop measuring your decisions based only on how comfortable they feel and begin measuring them based on where they lead. Because what feels safe will keep you where you are. But what is aligned will move you where you are meant to be. And now, as this realization begins to settle into you, as you start to see fear not as protection but as limitation, another layer of truth begins to rise. If fear had been keeping you comfortable, then what is waiting for you beyond that comfort? What exists on the other side of the step you have been hesitating to take? Because the moment you move past the illusion, the moment you step beyond what feels safe, everything begins to open in a way that cannot happen while you remain where you are. And this is where the shift becomes real. Type I release false safety in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 6666 is now activated. There is something shifting within you right now, something subtle yet powerful. As you begin to see fear more clearly, as you recognize its patterns, its disguises, its influence, another presence begins to rise alongside that awareness. It is not loud. It does not force itself forward. But it is there, steady, unwavering, and real. It is courage. Not the kind of courage the world often describes. Not loud confidence or bold declarations meant to impress others. This is something deeper. Something quieter. Something that does not need to prove itself, because it is rooted in truth. And Archangel Michael is revealing something essential in this moment. Courage is not something you have to create. It is something that is being released into you right now. You may have spent time believing that you needed to become stronger before you could move forward, that you needed more certainty, more clarity, more assurance before you could take the next step. You may have told yourself, "When I feel ready, then I will act." But readiness, as you are beginning to understand, does not always come before the step. Sometimes it comes through the step. And this is where courage enters. Courage does not remove uncertainty. It moves through it. Courage does not wait for fear to disappear. It acts despite its presence. Courage does not demand perfect conditions. It responds to alignment. This is what heaven is placing within you now. Not the absence of fear, but the strength to no longer be led by it. Archangel Michael stands in this moment not just as a messenger, but as a source of reinforcement. His presence carries authority, but it also carries strength. And that strength is not separate from you. It is being activated within you. You may begin to feel it in subtle ways. A shift in your thinking, a sense of clarity where there was confusion, a quiet confidence beginning to replace hesitation. It may not feel overwhelming or dramatic, but it is real, and it is growing. Because courage does not arrive all at once. It builds as you respond to truth. Every time you recognize fear and choose not to follow it, courage strengthens. Every time you pause and question the hesitation instead of accepting it, courage becomes more present. Every time you consider stepping forward instead of stepping back, courage expands within you. And soon, what once felt difficult begins to feel possible. This is how transformation happens. Not through a single moment of sudden change, but through a series of aligned responses that begin to reshape how you move, how you think, how you decide. And right now, you are in the middle of that shift. You are no longer unaware. You are no longer moving on autopilot. You are beginning to see the difference between fear and truth, between hesitation and discernment, between comfort and alignment. And with that awareness comes a new capacity, the capacity to act differently. This is what Archangel Michael is preparing you for. Not just to understand this message, but to live it. To take what you are realizing and apply it in the moment that matters, the decision that is approaching, the step that is waiting, the opportunity that is forming. Because courage is not meant to remain within you. It is meant to move through you. It is meant to show up in your actions, in your words, in your choices. It is meant to guide you when fear tries to return. And it will try. Fear does not disappear immediately. It will still attempt to speak. It will still present its arguments, its concerns, its reasons for hesitation. But now, something is different. Now, it is not the only voice. Now, courage stands alongside it. And for the first time, you are able to choose between them with awareness. You are able to recognize the difference between a thought rooted in fear and a knowing rooted in truth. You are able to feel the tension and not be controlled by it. You are able to move forward even when certainty is not fully present. This is power, not the kind that removes challenges, but the kind that moves through them. And as this becomes more real for you, as you begin to feel this strength settling into your spirit, another realization begins to form. You are not being asked to take a leap without support. You are being guided into a step that is already covered by awareness, covered by clarity, covered by the presence that has been speaking to you throughout this message. Archangel Michael is not sending you forward alone. He is standing with you as you move. His message is not just instruction, it is reinforcement. And now, as you stand in this space, feeling both the awareness of fear and the rising strength of courage, the decision in front of you begins to look different. Not because the situation has changed, but because you have. Because now, you are not approaching it from hesitation. You are approaching it from strength. And that changes everything. Type "I walk in courage" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 7777 is now activated. There is a truth that must be faced in this moment, not to create fear, but to awaken urgency. Because while you are being called into courage, while strength is rising within you, there is still a choice that remains. And that choice carries consequences, not just for now, but for what comes next. Delay is not neutral. It may feel harmless. It may seem like you are simply waiting, taking your time, being careful. But in the spirit, delay is movement in the opposite direction. It is not standing still, it is stepping away from alignment. And this is what Archangel Michael is revealing to you now. Every time fear convinces you to wait when you are meant to act, something shifts. Not always visibly, not always immediately, but internally and spiritually, something begins to change. Momentum slows. Clarity fades. Confidence weakens. And what once felt possible begins to feel distant. This is the quiet consequence of delay. It does not announce itself loudly. It does not come with immediate loss. It comes gradually, subtly, almost unnoticed at first. You tell yourself, "I will do it later." You tell yourself, "I just need more time." You tell yourself, "I want to be sure." And while those thoughts seem reasonable, something else is happening underneath. The moment that was meant for action begins to pass. The energy that was supporting your movement begins to shift. The clarity that was present begins to fade. And what once felt aligned starts to feel uncertain again. This is how delay works. It takes a moment of potential and stretches it until it loses its power. You may have experienced this before. A time when you felt ready to do something, when everything seemed to line up, when the opportunity was clear. But instead of acting, you hesitated. You waited. And over time, that same opportunity no longer felt the same. The excitement was gone. The clarity was weaker. The moment had passed. It was not coincidence. With the cost of delay. And Archangel Michael is bringing this into your awareness now, because the decision in front of you is not one that should be postponed. Not because you are being rushed, but because you are being aligned with a moment that is meant to be used. There is timing involved in your path. There are moments that carry a certain kind of energy, a certain kind of support, a certain kind of clarity that is not always present. And when those moments arrive, they are meant to be recognized and responded to. This is one of those moments. And if fear is allowed to lead, if hesitation is allowed to take control, that moment will begin to slip. Not forever, but enough to change the ease with which things could have unfolded. This is why delay matters. It does not always stop what is meant for you, but it can make the path more difficult. It can create unnecessary obstacles. It can extend the time it takes to reach what was already within your reach. And this is what you are being protected from now. Not just failure, not just mistakes, but unnecessary delay. Because you have already spent time waiting. You have already experienced moments where hesitation held you back. And this message is not here to repeat that pattern. It is here to break it. Archangel Michael is not speaking about consequences to create fear. He is speaking about them to create clarity. To help you see that your decision is not isolated. To help you understand that what you choose now will influence what happens next. And most importantly, to help you recognize that you are not being asked to wait. You are being asked to move. Even if the step feels small, even if it feels uncertain, even if it requires you to move beyond what feels comfortable. Because the longer you stay in hesitation, the more familiar it becomes. And the more familiar it becomes, the harder it is to break. This is why this moment matters. Not because everything depends on it, but because it is part of a pattern. A pattern that can either continue or change. And right now, you have the awareness to change it. You have the clarity to see what is happening. You have the strength that has already begun to rise within you. And now, you are being shown the cost of not using it. Not to pressure you, but to prepare you. Because the next time you feel that hesitation, the next time fear tries to convince you to wait, you will remember this. You will remember that delay is not neutral. You will remember that moments carry timing. You will remember that what feels safe may actually be holding you back. And in that awareness, you will have the opportunity to respond differently, to choose movement instead of delay, to choose alignment instead of hesitation, to choose faith instead of fear. And that choice is what changes everything. Type "I will not delay" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 8888 is now activated. As this truth settles deeply into your spirit, understand this: your response does not only affect your life, it opens doors for others who are still waiting in silence. Every seed you sow into this mission becomes a spark that reaches someone standing in their own moment of hesitation. The word declares, those who sow in faith will reap in abundance, and right now, that promise is speaking directly to you. I feel this strongly. I am choosing to be a vessel that helps God move through this message. When you give through the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on your screen, you are not supporting content. You are activating purpose, releasing light, and breaking fear in lives you may never meet. Do not wait. Step into this moment with obedience. Sow now and become part of the divine impact heaven is creating through you. Now that you see it, now that you recognize the pattern, the influence, the illusion, and the cost, something inside you is ready for the next step. Because awareness alone is not the end of this message. Awareness is the beginning. What you do with it, that is where transformation happens. And this is where Archangel Michael brings you into something powerful, something immediate, something that does not require waiting or preparation. The activation of faith. Not tomorrow, not later, not when everything feels perfect. Now, because faith is not something distant, it is not something reserved for certain moments or certain people. It is not something you need to build over years before it becomes usable. Faith is a choice, a response, a shift that can happen in a single moment when you decide to stop letting fear lead. This is what you are being called into. To override fear immediately, not by fighting it, not by trying to silence it, but by choosing something stronger in the very moment it appears. Because fear and faith cannot lead at the same time. One will always step forward while the other steps back. And until now, fear had been stepping forward first. But that changes here. The next time fear rises, and it will, you will feel it. That familiar hesitation, a diming in your thoughts, that quiet voice that begins to question your next move. But instead of following it automatically, instead of letting it guide your response, you will pause. That pause is power, because in that pause, you interrupt the pattern. You create space between the feeling and the decision. You step out of reaction and into awareness. And in that space, you have the ability to choose differently. This is where faith activates. not as a feeling, but as a decision. You begin to ask yourself a different question. Not what can go wrong, but what is aligned. Not what if I fail, but what if this is exactly what I am meant to do. Not why should I wait, but why should I move forward. These questions shift your focus. They pull your attention away from imagined outcomes and bring it back to present clarity. They remind you that you are not making decisions based on fear anymore, you are making them based on awareness. And that awareness becomes your guide. Faith does not require you to ignore reality. It requires you to see it clearly, without distortion. It allows you to recognize both risk and possibility, but choose based on alignment instead of avoidance. This is what overriding fear looks like in real time. It is not dramatic. It is not overwhelming. It is a quiet but firm redirection of your focus, your thoughts, your response. And the more you practice this, the stronger it becomes. At first, it may feel unfamiliar. You may still feel the pull of hesitation. You may still notice the instinct to step back. But each time you choose to move forward anyway, something strengthens within you. Confidence begins to build. Clarity becomes sharper. The voice of fear becomes less convincing. And over time, what once felt difficult becomes natural. This is the activation. Not a single moment of change, but a shift in how you respond moving forward. Archangel Michael is not asking you to eliminate fear completely. He is asking you to remove its authority, to stop allowing it to be the deciding factor in your life. Because once fear loses its authority, your path becomes clearer. Decisions become lighter. Movement becomes easier. And what once felt overwhelming begins to feel possible. This is where you begin to trust yourself again. Not blindly, not recklessly, but with awareness, with understanding, with the recognition that you are no longer reacting out of habit, but responding with intention. And that changes everything. Because now, when the decision in front of you comes into focus, you are not approaching it from hesitation. You are approaching it from activation. You are aware of the fear, but you are no longer controlled by it. You are aware of the uncertainty, but you are no longer stopped by it. You are aware of the risk, but you are no longer defined by it. Instead, you are guided by something deeper, something stronger, something that does not depend on perfect conditions to move forward. Faith. And as this becomes real for you, as you begin to feel this shift take hold within you, the next question rises naturally, leading you into what comes next. If you can override fear, what becomes possible for you now? Type "My faith is active" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 9999 is now activated. There comes a moment after the awareness, after the decision, after you choose to move differently, when something begins to settle within you. It is not loud. It is not overwhelming. But it is undeniable. It is confirmation. Not the kind that shouts from the outside world. Not something that requires constant reassurance or repeated signs to convince you. This kind of confirmation begins within you first. It is a shift in your internal state. A quiet alignment that replaces the tension you once felt. And Archangel Michael wants you to understand this clearly. Alignment does not feel like fear. It may still carry uncertainty. It may still involve the unknown. But it does not carry the same confusion, the same heaviness, the same internal resistance that fear produces. Instead, it feels grounded. It feels steady. It feels clear, even if the full picture is not yet visible. This is how you will know. When you make a decision from faith instead of fear, something changes immediately inside you. The overthinking begins to quiet. The endless questioning begins to fade. The need to constantly reevaluate the decision starts to release its grip. You may still think about it, but you are no longer trapped in it. That is the first sign of alignment. Because when fear leads, it creates cycle. You think, then doubt. You decide, then question. You move, then pull back. It is repetitive, exhausting, and unstable. But when faith leads, it brings resolution. Not perfect certainty, but enough clarity to move forward without returning to the same mental loop. You will feel that shift. It may come as a sense of calm after making the decision. A quiet knowing that says, "This is right," even if you cannot fully explain why. It may come as a release of pressure, as if something that was weighing on you has been lifted. That is not coincidence. That is alignment. Another sign will appear in how you respond to fear after the decision is made. Fear may still try to return. It may attempt to revisit the situation, to question what you have chosen, to introduce doubt again. But something will be different this time. Its voice will feel weaker. Not because it has disappeared, but because you are no longer giving it the same authority. You will notice that its arguments do not carry the same weight. Its questions do not feel as convincing. Its presence does not create the same level of tension. You will recognize it, but you will not follow it. That is confirmation. Because alignment strengthens your ability to discern. It sharpens your awareness of what is true and what is not. It allows you to observe fear without being influenced by it. And as this continues, another sign will begin to show itself externally. Things will start to move. Not always in dramatic ways, not always immediately, but you will begin to notice shifts. Conversations that align with your decision. Opportunities that reflect your movement forward. Situations that begin to open in ways that were not visible before. This is how alignment works. It does not always change everything at once, but it begins to adjust your environment to match the direction you have chosen. Doors that were unclear begin to reveal themselves. Paths that felt blocked begin to open. And even challenges begin to feel different, not as obstacles, but as part of the process. Because once you are aligned, you are no longer resisting movement, you are participating in it. And that participation changes how everything unfolds. You may also notice something deeper within yourself, a growing sense of trust. Not just in the decision you made, but in your ability to make decisions moving forward. The doubt that once followed you begins to lose its hold. The need for constant validation begins to decrease. You begin to trust your own discernment. And that is one of the strongest signs of alignment. Because when you trust yourself, you move differently. You hesitate less. You question less. You respond with more clarity and less fear. And over time, that trust becomes a foundation that supports every decision you make. This is what Archangel Michael is guiding you into. Not just one aligned decision, but a new way of deciding. A way that is not controlled by fear, not delayed by hesitation, not limited by the illusion of safety. A way that is rooted in awareness, strengthened by courage, and guided by faith. And as you step into this, as you begin to experience these signs, as you recognize the shift happening within and around you, something else becomes clear. You are not lost. You are not uncertain. You are aligned. And when you are aligned, the path ahead does not need to be fully visible for you to continue moving forward. Because you are no longer relying on perfect clarity, you are relying on trust. Trust in what you feel. Trust in what you know. Trust in what has been revealed to you. And that trust becomes the bridge between where you are now and what is waiting for you next. So as you move forward, pay attention. Not to every external detail, not to every possible outcome, but to what is happening within you. Because that is where your confirmation begins. Type "I am aligned" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1010 is now activated. There is something waiting for you not far away, not unreachable, not reserved for someone else, but positioned just beyond the very step you have been hesitating to take. And this is what Archangel Michael wants you to see now. Because up until this point, you have been shown the influence of fear, the illusion of safety, the cost of delay, and the power of faith. You have been made aware of what has been holding you back. But now, your focus is being shifted forward, toward what is waiting on the other side of your obedience. And what is waiting is not loss. It is not regret. It is not failure. It is blessing. But not in the way you may have imagined. Because the blessing is not just an outcome. It is a transformation. The moment you choose to move forward in alignment, something begins to change immediately. Not just externally, not just in your circumstances, but internally. You begin to step into a version of yourself that has been waiting for this exact decision. A version of you that is no longer controlled by hesitation. A version of you that trusts its own discernment. A version of you that moves with clarity instead of confusion. This is the first blessing. Because before anything around you changes, you change. And that internal shift becomes the foundation for everything that follows. You begin to notice that decisions feel lighter. Not because they are easier, but because you are no longer carrying the weight of fear within them. You begin to move with a sense of direction that was not fully present before. Even when you do not have every answer, you feel anchored in your choice. That is alignment becoming real. And from that place, external blessings begin to unfold. Opportunities that once felt out of reach begin to move closer. Situations that seemed uncertain begin to take shape. Conversations begin to align with your direction. Doors that were unclear begin to open in ways that feel natural, not forced. This is not coincidence. This is what happens when your internal alignment matches your external movement. Because what is meant for you does not respond to hesitation. It responds to readiness. And readiness is not perfection. It is willingness. The willingness to move forward even when everything is not fully visible. The willingness to trust what has been revealed to you. A willingness to act in alignment with truth instead of waiting for fear to disappear. And when you step into that willingness, things begin to meet you. Not all at once. Not instantly. But steadily. The path begins to form as you walk it. The clarity deepens as you continue moving. The confidence builds as you experience the result of your own aligned actions. And over time, you begin to see something you could not fully see before. You begin to see that what you were afraid of was never greater than what was waiting for you. That the step you hesitated to take was not leading you into loss, but into expansion. That the moment you almost delayed was actually the doorway to something greater. This is the blessing on the other side. Not just a single result, but a new level of living. A level where fear no longer dictates your pace. A level where hesitation no longer defines your decisions. A level where you begin to trust the process, not because it is predictable, but because you are aligned within it. And as this becomes your new way of moving, something even deeper begins to settle into your awareness. You are no longer chasing outcomes. You are walking in alignment. And when you are aligned, what is meant for you begins to find you without force, without struggle, without the constant need to question whether you are on the right path. Because you know, not intellectually, not logically, but internally. And that knowing becomes your guide. Archangel Michael is not showing you this to create expectation. He is showing you this to create understanding, to help you see that your obedience is not leading you into uncertainty. It is leading you into something that has already been prepared, something that has been waiting for you to step forward, something that cannot fully meet you until you move. And now, as you stand here, aware of what has been behind you and what is in front of you, the final realization begins to rise. This is not about what you might gain or lose. This is about who you are becoming through the decision you are about to make. Because on the other side of this step is not just a blessing. It is a version of you that no longer needs to be convinced to move forward. And once you become that version of yourself, everything changes. Type "I receive what is waiting for me" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1111 is now activated. Section 12. The final call. Step forward without fear. Now the moment has come. Everything you have heard, everything you have felt, everything that has been revealed to you through this message have been leading to this exact point. This is not just the end of a message. This is the beginning of your response. Because awareness without action changes nothing. Archangel Michael is not standing at a distance anymore. His presence is close, direct, and unwavering. And his voice, the same voice that has been guiding you through every realization, now becomes even clearer, because this is where decision meets destiny. He is not asking again. He is calling you forward. Do not let fear control your next decision. Feel the weight of that now, more than ever. Not as a warning, but as a command sealed with purpose, backed by divine authority, and positioned at the exact moment you need it most. Because the truth is, you already know what your next step is. You have felt it before this message even began. It has been sitting quietly in your thoughts, returning again and again, waiting for your agreement. It may not be loud. It may not be obvious to anyone else. But within you, it is clear. And that clarity is not random. It is alignment. But fear has been standing at the edge of that clarity, trying to distort it, trying to delay it, trying to convince you to step back just one more time, to wait just a little longer, to question just a little more. And this is the moment where that pattern ends. Not tomorrow, not later, now. Because you have been given everything you need. You have been shown what fear looks like. You have seen how it operates. You understand the cost of delay. You feel the presence of courage rising within you. You recognize the signs of alignment. And you have been shown what is waiting on the other side of your obedience. Nothing is missing. Nothing is unclear. The only thing left is your decision. And understand this deeply. This is not about perfection. You are not being asked to make a flawless move. You are not being asked to eliminate all uncertainty. You are not being asked to control every outcome. You are being asked to move forward in truth, to take the step that aligns with what you now know, not what fear is telling you. Because the longer you stand still, the louder fear becomes. But the moment you move, something shifts immediately. The grip loosens. The tension breaks. The uncertainty begins to settle into clarity. Movement changes everything. And that is why this moment matters so much. This is where you stop negotiating with hesitation. This is where you stop explaining your delay. This is where you stop waiting for a feeling that may never come. And this is where you begin to act from alignment. You may feel it right now, that pull. That knowing. That quiet but undeniable sense that something is about to change if you respond differently this time. That is not imagination. That is activation. Archangel Michael is not just watching this moment. He is standing within it, reinforcing you, strengthening you, reminding you that you are not stepping into this alone. You are stepping into it covered, guided, and aligned. But even with all of that, the step must still come from you. Heaven will not force your movement. It will prepare you. It will guide you. It will strengthen you. But the decision is yours. And this is where everything shifts. Because the version of you who have been hesitating ends here. And the version of you who moves forward begins now. Not because fear disappeared, but because you chose not to follow it. This is your moment. This is your confirmation. This is your turning point, fully realized. So when the opportunity appears, when the decision comes into focus, when that moment you have been sensing finally arrives, do not retreat. Do not delay. Do not hand control back to fear. Stand in what you now know. Move with what you now feel. And trust what has been revealed to you. Because on the other side of that step is not just change. It is transformation. Type "I step forward" without fear in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1212 is now activated. As this final truth settles into your spirit, understand this sacred reality. Your obedience does not end with you. It becomes a doorway for countless others still trapped in fear. Every seed you release into this mission becomes a light that reaches someone standing at their own turning point, waiting for clarity just like you were. The word declares, "Cast your bread upon the waters, and it shall return to you multiplied." And this is not distant scripture. It is God speaking directly into your moment right now. I feel this deeply for you. I am stepping forward to help deliver this message to the one who needs it next. When you give through the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on your screen, you are not donating. You are activating divine impact, releasing truth, and partnering with heaven's timing. Do not hesitate here either. Move in obedience. So now, and become part of the transformation God is unfolding through this message.